Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum, episode 21. And we're back with the repeat guest, Jay Clark. Jay
What's
Clark,
good?
he's an Accel owner, which is a rental car group. And I want to know more about this group as well and plug in the company that you're a part of. And he's also a graduate of Olivet Nazarene University, which is located in Bourbonnais, Illinois, adjacent to Kankakee, south of Chicago. Welcome to the show again, and thanks for accepting the invitation.
No doubt, no doubt. Oh, I think my video just went out real quick. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me once again. Let's get into this.
We have a lot to talk about today, Jay. The audience, you guys need to get your seatbelts, get your popcorn. Even though it's early in the morning, this is an episode that I think calls for this type of reaction. I'm excited to do the episode. We're going to talk about Kanye West. We're going to talk about Kyrie Irving, this anti-Semitism in air quotes, just some different stuff. We're going to talk about, especially revolving Black men and this condemnation really of Black men that's been going on for a long time, not just the media-driven negrophobia is what we call it in Latin America, but there's a lot of negrophobia in the United States, very prevalent, which dates back to obviously the Middle Passage and even before then. I wanted to plug in your group. Tell me a little bit more about Accel Business Group. It's a car rental group you're a part of?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that's our primary focus is getting cars to people as far as externally. So we got cars mainly in Chicago, Phoenix, and Orlando, right by the largest airports in those three cities. So mainly when people fly in, they'll get a car from us. We'll service them, whether it's for a couple of days, a week, a month, however long, we should be able to take care of them. We got like luxury cars and regular cars, SUVs, pretty much whatever, whether you're traveling for style or for family or for business, we should be able to have something for you, help you out.
Are you the sole proprietor of this company?
Up until very recently, it was always legal standing. It was never a sole proprietor, but I recently got actually involved with a partnership, so that took a load off me mentally, and brought in some different resources to the business. So kind of taking that next step in business of collaboration, if you will.
So, but you're considered an owner of the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the majority owner.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, up until the partnership, I was the only owner, but now it's a partnership, if you will.
And what areas do you service?
You mean as far as cities?
Yes.
So Phoenix, Orlando, Chicago is our bread and butter. And we may expand just depending on where the market takes us. But that's kind of the three cities that we're focused on at the moment.
Well, congratulations on that endeavor. And I definitely want to link
Thank you.
that into the episode description. I did the last time, but I'll do it again just so people can get that visibility and see what's going on with Accel, ACCEL. And it's a rental car group, correct?
Yeah, rental cars. We trying to get down to Nashville too, trying to get down to
Oh,
Tennessee, but yeah, it's about supply and demand. We'll see when
it's a
that day
growing
comes.
market down here. Nashville is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, the metropolitan area.
Mm.
And I know Chicagoland is, I think, the third largest metro area in the country.
Yeah, third, fourth, Houston. Houston trying to sneak past us. Houston going crazy though. They blowing up down there.
H-Town, yeah. H-Town's a nice town. But Chi-Town is too. I've been up there. I've been to Chicago about 6 times.
Mm.
And we talked about Chicago some the last episode. And, you know, not surprisingly, we're going to talk about some Chicago now. We're going to talk about another Chicago native. Ye is what he goes by now, but
Our guy.
Kanye. I want to get your views just initially on the situation with the loss of the Adidas deal with Kanye. But even before that, what would be some of the things that people don't understand about Kanye West, in your opinion, if you were to tell a viewer who is like team hater on Ye, or just someone that doesn't understand Kanye West, what would be some misconceptions that you would clear up just from the get-go?
Well, that's a great question. I do want to preface. We just talked about Chicago. I do have that biased perspective. So I'm from Chicago land, if you will. I'm from an hour south, but we grew up on College Dropout. We grew up on, the whole Ye beat movement, the whole producer to rapper transition movement, and we followed Ye the whole time. And then he kind of just super blew up. Like he surpassed superstardom to the point that, he has a B by his name now. He's involved with a lot of stuff. So I didn't say very biased. I'm sort of biased because of my proximity to where he grew up. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that he may be overly strategic with things, but there's always intent behind what he's doing. He didn't lose the Adidas deal on accident. I don't think, from what I understand, the way he's smarter than that. He didn't lose all of these deals and partnerships on accident. The things he was saying were intentional, and he kind of knew the outcome before it happened. People were just upset because it was on such a large stage that he did it, which is the internet. The internet's going to be what it is. He can't control that. Wherever he goes, he could be on this podcast. He says something crazy is going to blow up. That just comes with his stature. So I think in my biased opinion, I want to preface once again, I do think people should cut him some slack, because it's like, if he wanted those deals to continue, he would have just shut up and played his role. But I think he sees for himself something bigger, maybe a larger vision, or something that's just morally incorrect that he didn't agree with, and decided to separate himself. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
So going back to one of the original two questions, like you answered one of them, what would be some of the misconceptions that people have of him? I guess if someone was like just directly with you right now and asking like, why should I warm up towards Kanye West? Like, why should I give him alternative looks or a second look?
I'm gonna keep it real. I've only heard pushback from, like, serious pushback from elder generation super Dems. I'm gonna be honest. And it's like, if you bring up the phrase Ye or Kanye West, they like get all huffy and puffy about it. I don't think he's a bad person. I think that the general public is trying to be convinced that Kanye West is like a bad person, that he has ill intent, that he's evil in some way. And even, my Christian brothers and sisters, some of them say that he's a false prophet. I don't think that he has any ill intent, in those ways. That he's almost pushed forward in the public realm to be perceived right now. And I think it's just an attack. Unfortunately, I'm not his lawyer. I'm not here to defend him necessarily, but I think it's quite clear that, anyone that can look at the situation logically can see that he's a target of the media right now. He's the primary target of the media, other than what's his name? Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's kind of going through it as well, but I definitely ain't gonna defend him with the allegations that are involved. But I think the media, as far as pop culture, American media, American pop culture, they pick their targets. We've kind of discussed that before. And if you go against the overall motion of where they want things to go, they'll try to slaughter you. I'll say try to slaughter you. I do think Ye is going to withstand all of this. I think his future is brighter than his past.
Do you think that, even compared to, we know how the media likes to give these character assassinations towards people. And that's a light way to put it, because I'm going to try to bring a historical framework into this that goes back to slavery, to the enslavement of Black people, and how that's very relevant to this conversation, this discussion with Kanye West, because I have to frame it that way so I don't get these accusations of being anti-Semitic. I've gotten anti-Semitic accusations towards me for years now, especially in the political sphere. If you have certain views, people will tag that and put that anti-Semitic label on you. It happens all the time, especially with Black men. But a lot of that is because it kind of goes into Ye's assessment. I wouldn't have said it the way he said it, but at the same time, I can't filter the way he talks. Like he's going to talk the way he wants to. And I don't have any right to tell him the way to talk the way he wants to talk. I would give it a different framework into what he was trying to get at when it comes to this prioritization of everything Israel, because the people he's talking about are a part of the industry that he's in, and they are controlling the shots or whatever. People call it a conspiracy theory, but some of the data we're going to go over later and just some of the names I'm going to drop is going to show that it's not conspiratorial at all. There's nothing conspiratorial when you have the links and the names and the companies, the people owning these companies controlling the information, and they just happen to all be a part of the same group of people. And it's not Jews either. It's not even a Jewish thing. It's the political angle that all these people have in common that are Jewish. And so it gives validity into what he's saying. You have something to say, Jay?
Yeah, and I'm big on words. A couple of my homies they get real particular with me because I'm particular with words. And when I hear these words, in particular, conspiracy, Semitism, anti-Semitic, that the definition of the words and the public perception are completely misaligned. They're just viewed as negative, but they actually have real meanings, So conspiracy, right? Everything we're discussing is the definition of a conspiracy. Conspiracy is it's a negatively perceived word, but it actually has meaning behind it. So conspiracy would be a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. That's the definition of a conspiracy. It's not, it could be a many of things, but considering what we're talking about, considering all the evidence in front of us, this is quite literally the definition of a conspiracy. But I want to go back. I want to go back to names, though. I want to go back to names. I think Pete Davidson is he's one of the largest pawns in the war against Kanye West. And I've never said that publicly. I wanted to tweet it. I wanted to tweet it. I wanted to put it on just because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. Kanye West is no stranger to the public. Kanye West is no stranger to anything pop culture, anything media, anything of that nature. Ever since Pete Davidson got involved with Kanye's wife at the time, I think she's still his wife, but ever since Pete got involved over there, all I see is this dude all across my screen. Now, I look at his aneurysms and who he seems to be as a person. He's a weirdo. I'm being completely honest. He's a weirdo. I don't want to judge him publicly, but he probably tell you he's a weirdo. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, he just off his horse. And I'm watching the little Pro Bowl game the other day. Whatever. It was a shit show, if I'm being honest. But it was a little Pro Bowl game. And he's judging the NFL's best catch. The NFL's best catch award. And I'm like, why the hell is Pete Davidson here? Like, it's Pete Davidson in the middle as a judge, Snoop Dogg on one side, Snoop Dogg, and LaDainian Tomlinson. If people don't know him, he was a Chargers running back, one of the greatest, younger generation might not know, but one of the greatest running backs in the 2000s, if you will. Pete Davidson standing in the middle. And after my thoughts of why the hell is this guy here, he quite literally says he's the one that they interview at the end of the competition for some reason. Pete Davidson gets interviewed. He quite literally says, why the hell am I here? I'm next to two legends. Pete, I don't know why you're there. The audience doesn't know why you're there. You don't know why you're there. But to me, it seems very odd that ever since he got involved with the man's wife, and there's a clear public smear campaign against this man, that he's plastered all over the TV. And then, but if Ye comes out and says that, like, hey, they're using Pete Davidson to slander me, to ridicule me, to psychologically attack me, they would say Ye's tripping. But the reason this man is relevant is because of his connection to Ye at this point. I had to Google who this man even was. Who the hell is Pete Davidson?
He was on Saturday Night Live.
I saw that for some years.
He's a comedian. I don't know much about him. I know he's been in some movies, but I'm not really into the pop culture stuff as much. I know I think there's too much of it in our world. Like that's the reason why people are so dumbed down now is because the fact that we're even giving Kanye West honestly this much shine is a problem because there are way
Mm.
bigger societal issues going on besides people making it seem like a black man is a Nazi, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's one of those things where I think we have to question anyone that's in front of the television and the silver screen. I really do. And you have to wonder why are these people the ones promoted in these situations? He obviously, I think he's playing a little dumb to think that he just happened to be there. Like he was there for a reason. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the Kanye West connection. I think he had a following before Kanye, but there's definitely a linkage now after the Kardashian situation.
Yeah, it makes too much sense to me. And it is I think the Pro Bowl was like confirmation to me because of course the same people that are at war with this man in media are over the media that was over the game. So it just makes sense. I don't know. And I would probably get labeled a conspiracist if this was able to reach a large number of people. But it's like, come on, man. Just look at the evidence in front of you. It's getting out of control, honestly.
I want what interviews have you followed with Kanye when these accusations came up? I mean, I see why people are saying what they are because of I wrote a lot of stuff down based on some of his interviews. But what have you seen yourself? What have you followed? Like even before the Adidas deal fell through, like in some of Kanye's interviews, to where you just knew that he would get in trouble for being a free thinker.
Oh man. Just the direct attacks at the paradigm. I actually I might have shared this with you. I'm not sure, but I shared a viral clip of Ye from the Drink Champs interview. And it was him kind of making fun at the common hip hop song. Um, and he said it was a quote, I'm a F yo bit, I'ma kill this nigga.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that to the beat of the tune. I think I had this tornado sign in the background. But what was most interesting is it was completely true. I posted it on Instagram and they took it down saying that it was inciting violence, but it was actually the most viral video I had to that day. It had like 150,000 views, like
On
a lot of
Instagram?
people. Yeah, like it was completely blowing up and they took it down saying that it was inciting violence. But all the clips of him speaking of anti-Semitism or whatever they want to label it, which by that definition, he did speak in that way, by the definition of that word. Because if you say anything against that particular group in public, it's labeled as that, back to the definition of word. So whether you're saying anything good or bad, if you're saying that that group has control over things, then it's labeled as anti-Semitic. But those were the clips that were allowed to ride. Now, why is it that the clip that was portraying the negatives in hip hop music, which is violence, that was taken down, but the clips that are quote unquote anti-Semitic that aren't necessarily violent the way he said them, but he's receiving violence in return. So actually, the clips that you're letting ride are the ones inciting violence versus the one that Instagram decided to take down. One was progressive for a culture. The other one was regressive for one person. I don't know. It just
Mm,
doesn't make sense to me.
interesting.
The things that he was saying in the interview that I posted were progressive for Black people because it was shining light on the negatives in hip hop versus what he was saying was inciting violence, but in the opposite fashion. People were attacking him because of the things he said, but those clips were able to run wild at that, you know.
You referred to anti-Semitism, and honestly, there are two YouTube channels that people have to subscribe to if you want to know about Black political thought, philosophy,
Mm.
why large segments of Black people we have our own people that we follow, and I think that the mainstream media and society in general, the Western world especially, has done a great job of making everything anti-Africa. When something's anti-Africa, when you don't talk about it, just think about humanity came from Africa. But if you look at the news, you would never know that Africa existed, because all we talk about are European countries. We talk about the G7 countries, UK, United States, Germany, France, and a handful of other countries that are friends with those countries I mentioned. But you never hear about Africa the way you should hear about Africa. And that's why I'm going to get some people from the continent of Africa to kind of show what kind of news that they take in, what's happening in their side of the world, because we don't even hear much about South America, Latin America, Asia, Africa. These areas are discarded in favor of the super capitalistic Western world and the European Union. That's all we talk about. If it's not pro-European Union and pro-United States, it's always viewed as catastrophic, Muslim, and they make it in a very negative way. Like that's the funny thing about anti-Semitism, is that it was originally meant to be a language focus. Anti-Semitic, it refers to Semitic languages. Some kind of way that original meaning morphed into meaning just Jewish people, who are Semitic people. But guess who else are Semitic people? Arabs are also Semitic. So why isn't anti-Semitic applied to people who are Islamophobic? Why does it only apply to Jewish people and not people from Pakistan, from Iran, from Saudi Arabia? Why is it only towards a group of people in the state of Israel? That's why I don't get that, but because that's the way the power of the word has transformed. Because you have companies and you have organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, you have the Southern Poverty Law Center, you have all these different corporations and organizations who are led by Zionist Jews. They are. I'm not making this stuff up. You can look it up. All these people are leading a political movement, which is fine. I don't have a problem with people having their own political movements, but give people, other people, area for their political movement too. It shouldn't be a monopoly on political movement. And a lot of this goes back to the foundation of Israel in 1947. A lot of these people are promoting this same ideology where Israel is fine. I'm not saying that Israel shouldn't exist. I'm not one of those people that's saying that. But I'm just saying that I can see a certain narrative to where Israel is, whatever Israel says is going to be what the law is. And anything that goes or combats against that narrative of Israel is going to be under strict condemnation, strict criticism, and in a lot of cases just completely blacklisted from public thought or information or public domain. That's what scares me a lot with that. But the two channels I wanted to shout out are Afro-Marxist and Real Black One. That's spelled REEL, the same as your podcast, J. Clark, Real Mindset. It's called Real Black One. And it's a film site that shows a lot of documentaries, a lot of debates with Black historians and philosophers and professors. And it brings in all the different Black political thought, from Marcus Garvey to Malcolm X, to MLK, to Louis Farrakhan, all these different people, to show that there's a common link in history where the media portrays as certain historians and certain ministers or just completely distanced from the MLKs that are completely whitewashed now, because the white people like MLK now when they hated him when he was killed by the CIA or whoever the hell killed him. He was completely an unpopular Black person back then. But now he's super popular. We have a birthday. You know, he has his own day. Malcolm X doesn't have a day. I don't think he does. Why doesn't Malcolm X have one, but MLK has one? Well, Malcolm was part of the Nation of Islam, you know, and so Farrakhan
MLK was a government. He was a government employee, though. He was on the payroll. You know what I mean? It's on the payroll.
But even then, though, they want to separate the MLK crowd from the Malcolm X crowd when there's a lot of overlap between the two and the Farrakhan crowd. Just go to these two channels and watch it for yourself, because the media wants to make you seem that most black people don't fuck with Farrakhan. They don't fuck with Malcolm X. They don't fuck with any of these people
that's
because they're part
trash.
of the Nation of Islam. No, that's the way they sell it though in the media. If you watch it, they separate the black political thought. They
Mm.
do it in a way to make black people question: is that a good thing that I'm thinking this way? That's the seed they put in your head. They're doing it.
I've given up. I've given up on like white media acceptance. I think that for one, it makes me like dangerous in a way because I just at times I feel like I'm just going rogue, but in reality, I'm just standing on my truth. I don't. They've never made a place for us. You know, I can't go knock on their door for 10 minutes begging to get in. They let me in. They all sitting at the table. I ask for a seat. They tell me to go sit on the couch. Then I gotta ask for food. Like, nah, I want to be welcomed when I arrive. For like, I just that's the analogy I see when I look at trying to fit in white media spaces. I'm not gonna beg, you know. I'm just gonna create my own, build my own house. I'm gonna get this rugged house over here and build it up. That's what your house is nice, but I'd rather feel more comfortable in my own.
But isn't that kind of what we're getting at though? With don't you think that that's the problem that both Kyrie and Kanye faced is this whole idea of they're breaking away from that current, and so what happened to them as a result of that?
I believe I don't think anything happened to them
You
necessarily.
don't think
You
so?
know, I mean, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Kyrie did have to go meet with the leaders, the Jewish leaders and whatnot. I think Ye had to do something similar. But it's like what are you gonna give? Your soul or a couple of dollars? I don't know. You know, how are you I think there's a certain type of people that's just going to stand on what they believe in, and that's where you get revolutionaries and leaders. You know, and not all of that is good. You know, there's good and evil and everything. There's two extremes and everything. There's good kings and evil kings. But for these two men that we're talking about, Kyrie and Ye, I don't think that they've lost any more than they've gained, which is peace of mind and standing on principle. You know, I think it goes to their intent, and we don't know it. We don't know their intent from a public perspective, but from everything I've heard from the two of them out of their own mouth, not public perception, it doesn't seem like they have evil or ill intent. I think they're both coming from very genuine places of trying to understand, you know, how are we two kings in America that are hated and scrutinized for things that we believe in and for truth and for things that are congruent with our people's history. Why are we hated for that? Why is that muzzled? And they haven't necessarily backed down from that point, you know? So it's like, do you want to keep a couple dollars or give up your soul, give up your entire being as a human, as a man, if you're trying to discover that truth and what that means? I think you have to make that choice when you're in their situation.
I guess I guess my question to this as a follow up would be: do you see Kanye's multi-billion-dollar Adidas loss? I know we can view that as a completely different. Some people would view that as a game because he did it intentionally. I absolutely agree with you that he did it intentionally, and I'm not
Mm.
debating that both of these guys are both free thinkers. Is and I support them, but I was getting at more. Do you think that the loss of his deal with Adidas and Gap and also Kyrie's multi suspensions, one because the jab, and then the other one because this latest incident because he shared a link about a purported anti-Semitic film, which he just shared
Mm.
a link. That's it. Do you not see those two things as forms of buck breaking?
I do. I do. I absolutely do. And it's it's bigger now because on a bigger scale with them, you know, they're getting whipped in front of the entire public. And people, there's out of 10 people, there's going to be a certain amount that think that those are absolute losses. Those are catastrophic losses. He lost billions of dollars in a day, or he got suspended, so he lost $200,000 a game for not playing. It's just how you view money, you know, in my personal opinion, and the understanding of value when it comes to Ye specifically. It's not like the man's bank account decreased by 2 billion or whatever the hell. He lost a partnership with Adidas, who's a worldwide leader in apparel, footwear, lifestyle, etc., and also Gap, who's involved with the children. Gap. So he lost two large brands that were attached to his, I say, larger brand of Yeezy, and his value decreased, his quote unquote net worth decreased because he just got disconnected from these certain brands. But it's not like he's burning cash. And to me, that can be rebuilt. I'm sure to him it can be built too, but that's going to take some time and different resources and direction. But my prediction for Ye as it permits to like clothing and all of that crap, I think he's going to come back with a shoe that competes with Nike. I think he's going to come back with a jean that competes with Levi, a boot that competes with Timberland. He has the resources to do that. I will be a buyer personally. I would love to see him kind of come back and make his own clothing brand and just slap all these other clothing brands in the face. I would love to see it. Does he have the stamina and the want to do that? It's yet to be seen, but I'll go back to my point before. I think his future is brighter than his past. I don't think we've seen the last of Ye, on a high level in clothing, and damn sure not in music. Music is forever. But
do you see? Can you explain to the audience just briefly, because a lot of people in my audience may not understand what the term is, buck breaking. Can you tell the audience where that comes from?
Yeah, this is my understanding. Just from like reading and history and stuff I've seen. This is just almost publicly embarrassing someone in power, in order to get the common folk to stay in alignment. So in the slave days, of course, you would buck break the strongest male slave, the slave that potentially all the slaves feared. The master might come and beat the hell out of him in front of everybody. And the message was, if we can do it to him, we can do it to you. So I understand the position of, let's just talk black and white. This black man's being attacked on a national scale, a worldwide scale at this point. I can completely understand, empathize, and sympathize with the majority of black folks who are scared to come to his defense. I completely understand it. But when, I don't know, I just can't, as a Chicago land native, I ain't gonna sit by and let them just destroy this man. I'm not his legal counsel, I'm not his lawyer, but when it's brought to my attention and I can have a platform such as this, I thank you, to be able to speak on it. It's like, I'm not gonna join the smear campaign just because I'm told to. What are the facts? What's really going on with this? What's the bigger agenda? Potentially, it's all speculation, but is everything on the surface true? Should we accept what they're telling us, or is it a deeper meaning to what's going on? And to close that point too, if I'm the powers that be, I would be attacking Kanye too, because the Drink Champs interview wasn't about Kanye West hating Jewish people. It was about black people coming together and building in community. And for a man as powerful as Jay and with the platform that he has, that is a threat to the current paradigm. So if I was him, I would attack him too. It makes sense.
I was thinking, and I'm not sure about this interview as far as like, I don't even know if it would last on YouTube, honestly. It'll probably be taken down. Like I'm anticipating on it being taken down.
You mean this particular one? Yeah, I'll share the clips. I was thinking the same.
Because and it's probably more so what I've said than you have. I don't think you said anything so far to kind of to mess up the algorithm or upset them. But I've definitely insinuated enough, I think, to give them a reason to close down the video. But that just shows you how the sort of environment we're in right now when it comes to free speech. And which is a fake notion, really. We don't have free speech in this country. If we did, we wouldn't have whistleblowers and journalists in prisons, in high security prisons, for telling the truth and exposing the intelligence agencies and governments. But instead, they're the ones that are in prison, and the people who committed the crimes are out telling us what to say and what not to say. So that tells you how fucked up the world is right now. And I'm referring to Julian Assange, Mumia. I'm referring to Leonard Peltier, all the different. Stephen Donziger, luckily, is freed now. But I'm talking about a lot of people who have exposed these intelligence agencies and information outlets, which serve the purpose to keep people hush hush and be quiet, and conform really to the system, conform to the information sphere that we're in. We're always told that everything is fake news and misinformation, but whose misinformation is it? I just think that that's been overused, misinformation, conspiracies overused too much, conspiracy theories. No, I call it a free thinker. That's why I deliberately called this Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum, because I want to set the tone and let people know that I don't care where you're coming from. You're welcome on the show. And I believe your ideas have a right to be broadcast. I don't care who you are. And I think you need to let the public decide what they don't want to take in and what they don't want to take in, but at least give people a chance to dialogue about it and not shut them down with this label that you came up with because it doesn't fit your political agenda. Again, that is a directed comment, and I've seen it just looking at some of the comments. There's a channel called News to Share. News, the number 2, and Share. All they do is broadcast protests and riots and different events around the world. They don't even talk on that. They just show the camera where the event is going on, and you'll see the protest signs and everything else, just live, real time. So a few days ago, there was a bunch of Jewish people protesting against the Israeli government here. Wow. American Jews protesting against the government of Israel right now. The Benjamin Netanyahu government, someone that Kanye outed in the Alex Jones interview, which I know pissed off the powers that be, because Benjamin Netanyahu, he's the current prime minister of Israel. He's a right-leaning politician who is very much all about Israel. He has very close ties with the United States, clearly, and the adjacent allies. But when Kanye mentioned his name, I knew that he was in some trouble. And this was after he lost the deal, because according to Kanye, a tweet is what caused them the loss of the Adidas deal. He said he put something on there. He was under the influence. He was drunk, and he tweeted something with Jews.
He said, "I'm going." What the hell did he say? I'll find it while you talk.
He said that tweet is what cost them the deal. It had nothing to do with the interviews, not even the Alex Jones interview, and not even the Drink Champs interview, and not even the Lex Friedman interview. He's done so many interviews. And I'm saying to myself, this guy is such a racist. He's such a Nazi, but yet everyone wants to interview him, And I just think it's crazy that, and I know I'm all over the place rambling, but I'm just so frustrated and mad because the company that dropped him has Nazi ties. Do people realize that the Adidas was started by a Nazi party affiliate? The Dassler family, Adolf and Rudolph, are 2 brothers. Adidas is the second largest shoe company in the world behind Nike. They were part of the Nazi party. Look it up. I'm not making this shit up. Adolf Dassler and Rudolf Dassler. They both broke off. One brother formed Puma, which is another shoe company that's still going on. They were both part of the Nazi party. And so why didn't the public think that that was their way to sort of distance themselves because of this apparently anti-Semitic black man that has Nazi ties, but they didn't get any criticism from it. And the criticism that they did get, it talked about a dark history of Adidas, but it didn't want to go too into detail about why, the history that Adidas has that was formed from the Nazi party.
So unfortunate. So the people that are upset with the people that are upset with Ye have Nazi blood and transatlantic slave blood, and we're supposed to crucify him. Nazi blood and transatlantic slave blood. Like, please spare me. He said he said he was going DEFCON 3 though. The tweet was he's going DEFCON 3. That was the tweet, but
did he specifically mention Jews in that tweet?
Yeah. He said I'm going DEFCON 3 against like the JEWs or whatever, the
Oh
Jews.
wow.
Yeah. And then he took it down. So
Mm.
again, who you are, the platform, the timing. I don't agree with anyone on everything, but the tweet probably shouldn't happen to me. You can't write it. You can't put it in words. If you say it in speech, some people will forgive you, but if you write it, you're gonna get some backlash, especially on Twitter. I think Elon even banned. I think he's banned from Twitter like today, like to this moment.
Yeah, according to the Alex Jones interview, he's still banned. As of that interview, he was still banned, and I think that interview was back in December.
Mm.
And the Alex Jones interview was pretty eye opening, honestly. Um, I think that interview. Have you watched that interview with Kanye and Alex Jones on
I haven't,
InfoWars?
not the full. I watched Tucker Carlson. I watched both Drink Champs. I don't think I watched the full Alex Jones one though.
Dude, the Alex Jones one is fucking bananas. Like
Mm.
he took the gloves off. No, he seriously. What he said in
I
the
can't
Alex Jones
imagine.
interview was like, to me, if you want to get him for anti-Semitism, the stuff he said in the interview was like, it would mess your mind up if you haven't caught up with the history.
Mm.
But I think he's definitely deliberate. He's definitely calculating this, and it's a way to show. He basically was saying, you got to realize that the people I'm surrounded by are all kind of controlling like what I have to say and stuff. Like
Ooh.
he also made a comment that they killed his mom. Like
I heard that. I did hear that.
he said that in that interview as well. Like that was one of the first things he said is that they sacrificed my mom. That's what he said.
Mm. Is that the interview where he went into he can pretty much say whatever he wants because he's never killed anyone?
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have seen. I might have seen. What's crazy? I was driving back from Dallas like 14 hours, so I got to watch all of these. But I might have heard that one. I think I was. I thought that was an interesting point too. That he was kind of calling out everyone in rap that pretty much all the largest rap stars have charges or some type of history. It's disgusting. There's so many things to unpack, and I I truthfully think that he's standing on good principle. He's a rapper and producer by trade, at least originally. So he's going to put the cape on and try to be the savior of that industry, that's his true my perspective of his truth right now. He's putting the cape on, risking everything to make change in the hip hop industry. And I think he's going to be successful with it. There's so many things wrong in hip hop and rap that he has plenty of things he can change and improve upon. And I don't think that white media and Jewish media are going to have anything to do with it, any say so in it. I don't know, man. I feel like we're underestimating Kanye's ties even to the most powerful Black people in this country. Dame Dash has a football league. Jay-Z had title. I don't think these things are just going to go by the wayside. I think that they're working behind the scenes probably in ways we don't even know. That's my hope, at least, my optimistic hope.
I'm genuinely concerned for Kanye West and his safety. I am.
Mm,
Been such a high profile
true
person.
that.
I am because of the stuff he said in the Alex Jones interview. Like it really scared me when he said it. The fact that Mossad, he dropped Mossad like 3 or 4 different times. And I don't know if you know what Mossad is,
Nah, I
but
don't.
Mossad is the Central Intelligence Agency of Israel. Is one of the 3 branches of Israel's intelligence system. And if people know about the history of Israel and the power that the Mossad has, you wouldn't be making those kind of comments like that, like, especially in a joking way. The Mossad is nobody to mess with at all. Like
Mm,
the Mossad is responsible for Israel and that war where Israel basically fought against 6 different Arab countries and defeated those Arab countries. And a lot of that had to do with the Mossad. The Mossad is an intelligence agency. And the unique thing about the Mossad is that the Mossad does not just protect people in Israel. they protect Jews all over the world. So if something happens, the Mossad will connect and work things out with other intelligence agencies. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. Um, there's a book that I threw out
Mm.
yesterday that I did with an interview of people. We talked about Julian Assange, this political prisoner and journalist and publisher, with the panel yesterday. And there's a book called One Nation Under Blackmail, volumes 1 and 2. The writer is Whitney Webb. She's an investigative journalist, and she talks about the link between intelligence agencies and organized crime. And the Mossad is mentioned extensively in volume 1 of this book and volume 2 as it pertains to the Jeffrey Epstein cover up going on right now. Ghislaine Maxwell, all these women and girls were raped on his island, and all these people that are big in the government and the media, all these politicians and heads of state, they're being protected right now. And it goes back to organized crime and intelligence agencies and how much control they have of the governments around the world and the information that we have. And so I'm doing this to educate people. Again, I personally don't think we've said anything that condemns a group of people. It's just simply stating information that's already out in the public.
Mm.
But I just think he needs to. I
Mm.
think he was very reckless in that interview in particular, and it almost made me question, because based up until that point, I still support Kanye, but is he a pawn too? Because you mentioned that Pete Davidson is a pawn, which I think is completely correct. I believe that Jay-Z is a pawn. I believe a lot of these people that are visible and thrown in our faces all the time, that seem to be just everywhere at the same time that we are. I think that they're part of this whole um, conspiracy when it comes to controlling music industries and everything else. Is Kanye a pawn to you too?
I doubt it. If he's a pawn, I don't think it's serving the same purpose. It's probably a different purpose he's serving. Hopefully he's a pawn of Jesus, like he says. But no, I don't suspect him to be a pawn of that stature, just because he seems to be actively ousted from that table, if you will. I don't think the people that are on that side are supporting him, and vice versa.
Just so people know too, to expand on Jay's point earlier about buck breaking, buck breaking a lot of times involved the rape of black men in front of a crowd too.
Mm.
It wasn't as much as it did involve like whipping and sort of a discipline, but it was very explicit. And this is documented in Jamaica, Brazil, in places that had large enslaved populations. This was a common practice, and it's not made up. We're not making this stuff up. Just look it up yourself. And so that's why I made that up. That's why I brought that up too, because of the psychological, almost serving as a litmus test in modern times. When someone that's really high up, that's a black person, goes against what people want us to say, it, I think those two people could easily be put in that example. And Kanye has a very deep history with testing the media's limits, because you
Mm-hmm.
remember under the Bush administration when he said
Yep.
George Bush does not like black people. Dave Chappelle, the camera turned on Dave Chappelle and Micah Myers, and they were both looking like confused. Their eyes could tell you everything. That, like, damn, this guy went off the script. Like, he's saying some shit that he's not supposed to say. But Kanye has always been like that. And he is also put into this category, because I've read the comments on social media and stuff. They portray him as a crazy person. Whenever you say things that go against what everyone wants to say, you become a crazy person. Now, the stuff I don't get about Kanye personally is the religious aspect, like the combination of religion, adding that into some of the points he's making, because I'm not well versed in Christianity in particular. Like, I've read the Bible before. I was a Christian at one point. I'm not now, but just some of the stuff that he was saying with Alex Jones, I'm not really I don't understand a lot of that stuff, the references with Satan, and I just don't get into that stuff personally, but I don't understand it as well, and I admit that I don't understand that stuff. Could you enlighten me maybe some as far as my misconception of him? Because I know he has his own church and his own choir and stuff now. I just
Yeah,
don't get
for
some of the
sure.
metaphors that he makes.
I don't I will speak from a place of experience, right? Because I'm a Christian. I identify as a Christian and my father's a pastor. So I'm been raised in the church, but I fell away from the church for some time and came back as an adult through reading and understanding God's word for myself. So that's my perspective on Christianity. And I don't even necessarily like that title because it's tied to the names, and the names is where things get muggy. You know, I'm a believer there is one most high God, and we are all under him, under that creator. When it comes to the names of the Messiah, I don't get into that because languages get involved and tribes and histories and all of that stuff. So when Ye speaks in that way, I hope for his sake that he's aligned correctly with the Most High. Because if you're portraying that and it's not necessarily true, it's going to backfire eventually. Now, back to his safety, I definitely am worried about that for him as much as I can outside of his body. But the things that he's saying and the people that he's attacking, like you said, they really have no recourse. I'm saying that now. They have no recourse. You know, these are the type of things, especially with them putting the crazy label and all of this on them. It can be reported that either he took his own life or someone else took his life. And I believe it would come and go like a wind blow on San Diego Beach. Like, I don't think that, unfortunately, I don't think that the media will carry that story very long, and they'll try to just kind of treat it as a bump in the road if it were to come to that. So because of where he's put himself with the words that he said, I'm not his attorney, not his public defendant, but because of the things he said, I think that there's only two real options here. He can completely fall to oblivion and maybe something bad happens, or he bounces back from this in a way that's unexpected by the powers that be and truly starts to turn a tide in Black ownership, Black liberation, and Black independence in America. Because that movement's it's been alive since the 60s and so, but now we're at a point where something has to give. Everyone knows, people are learning the history now. I'm not gonna say everyone knows, but people are learning and becoming aware of the true history and origins of America. Let's call it what it is. We're in the age of information. So a lot of these things that people are talking about, maybe there were only 10 public heads in the 70s and 80s and so on that knew the information, had the platform to share it, and were willing to share it regardless of what would happen in return. Now we have this platform. We have my own platform. We have YouTube. We have Anchor. We have Spotify. We have all these different platforms of sharing information, and that has to be accounted for. Information it almost moves at the speed of light these days. You know what I mean? Like in the 60s, if someone were to say something outlandish against the current paradigm, it might take years for the public to hear that perspective. Ye said these things and it went viral instantly. Millions, hundreds of millions of people heard these messages over the course of 14 days. So I think we're very early in this warfare that they've started against Mr. West. And me, and we're playing teams, I'm aligning on his side versus the people that are attacking him, for being 100% honest. So I think that maybe they did win a battle up front when trying to publicly smear him and getting some of the people that look like him to actually think that whatever these media folks are saying is true. But I think that the war is much longer than that. And I don't think that he's alone in the army as the media is portraying him to be. Even if Jay-Z, Dame Dash, weren't supporting him, what about all the other people that he's come in contact with? Is there no one on Ye's side in the world? Like, is that really what we're supposed to believe, that this man is standing outside of mansions in LA begging to get Kim K back? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Like, come on, you know?
That's definitely the narrative that they're pushing. They're definitely pushing that narrative. Um, but like I said, it kind of goes into his point. Um, I think it's like with Kanye, I have to sort of dissect what he says and piece it together because it's not always I won't say consistent. It's very fragmented sometimes. It's like he would say something at the end of the interview that would make total sense with the beginning of it, but you have to kind of piece it together. He doesn't
2
string
hours
it.
later.
He doesn't string it together in that same notion, and it's hard to follow sometimes. But and that's what people try to use his bipolar disorder against him, and all this other, like, I don't know anything about this man's psychiatric history. I don't. I know that he's
Man.
changed a little bit after his mom died. I think that obviously that's going to affect anybody, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm his doctor, like some people claim to be, like in the doctor's office with him when he's getting prescribed. I mean, I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Vehemently saying he's crazy. He's got psychological dyslexia. Like, what are we talking about, bro? Like, man.
But see, it's I wanted to talk some about the history that you alluded to when it comes to Black people and Jewish people. I made this comment after the George Floyd slaughter. After that happened, I released a 26-minute video on Facebook, and you probably watched it. That video got a lot of views. I did not expect it to get a lot of views, but it did. And it was just a sort of a passion of the moment. And I confess, I didn't even watch the video. I didn't watch all of it.
Man.
I watched the very beginning, and that's it. But I didn't have to watch it because, like Killer Mike was saying, America's obsessed with this murder porn, especially when it comes to murdering Black people, the police. Like, there's a history behind this. Instead of just spotlighting a moment here, or a Tyre here, or a Trayvon here, or Breonna here, like there's a history of Rodney King. I mean, not even a murder, but just a breaking down of the Black subject. And we know where it comes from. It's always been a part of the DNA of the United States. And it goes into the original sin that I talked about in that video with Indigenous Americans and Black Americans. That's the part that frustrates me when we talk about the Zionist agenda. If you want to frame the Zionist agenda and Black people being anti-Semitic, you have to also include the Black pain into this, which was previous to the Holocaust that we always hear about. We don't hear about the Black Holocaust. We don't hear about the Native American Holocaust, not to the degree I think we should hear about it as, because it wasn't named a Holocaust. Who knows the true figures of the slaying of Indigenous Americans and Black Americans? How many Blacks died in the Atlantic Ocean? We don't know the true number, but all we hear about is this group of people that were killed in Germany and Poland, in the Soviet Union. And somehow, why do we get into this pissing contest of comparing the slaughter of those people versus these people when these people were also slaughtered previous to these people being slaughtered? But and you never hear about the where are our reparations? I think that's where Black people are really paying right now. And I'm not the only one that shares this pain. It's not just a ploy. It's not a handout that Black people want. It's a debt that's owed. You talked about this the last episode. Why is it that when Black people want something and need something, when we've seen that other groups have gotten it, Japanese Americans got reparations, Jewish people got reparations. So where are our damn reparations when we're talking about pains and murders in history? And that's where, to me, the anti-Semitism argument does not hold water when we're talking about that.
They can't get reparations because they're still, quite honestly, they're still racking up their bill. They can't pay out reparations because they're still racking up their bill because we haven't taken control yet. We haven't shifted the paradigm yet. We're on the way, but we haven't shifted it yet. But I do want to touch on the police killings. I think it's important to say, and this video would never go as viral as a police killing, but I think it's important to say that all police killings don't go viral. All police killings don't go viral. Look at the statistics. We get a viral police killing once every 2 years, maybe. Seems to be timely. But all police killings don't go viral, and they seem to go viral when they want them to, you know. And what's unfortunate about the Tyre situation in Memphis is we got, what was it, 5, 6 black cops, big linebacker looking dudes. 3 of them was Omega Psi Phi. They got removed from the frat after this video blew up. But I don't even know if I'm using this properly, but it's almost like natural selection. I can't even fault the black police officers for what they did because they were in the uniform. They're blue. It's like in our society, there's black, white, yellow, green, whatever, and blue. So in that time they were blue, and that was a black man. They were under police training and psychological training to make their brother seem like an enemy is what it comes down to, in my personal opinion. So again, the fact that went just completely ballistic viral, it wasn't planned. It's unfortunate how it happened. And the fact that they were black men, I think, just made the story even more juicy for the media. Oh, this is great. We can put this out. We can plaster 5 black police officers that killed Mr. Tyre. And I watched that video too, because I don't even like to speak on that type of stuff without really having an understanding of what happened, because anything could happen. It was ugly, and it seemed as if, from the audio I heard at the end, it seemed as if he wasn't even the suspect that they were supposed to be getting in the first place. That's insanely scary to say the least. Is my camera tweaking right now? It is. That was me.
It's fine, but your audio is perfect.
For sure.
But I think that's why I don't watch. I didn't even watch the Tyre video. I didn't watch any of it. I don't have to. That's the thing about these stories, like you said, they blow up so big that people tell you the news. Like, they tell you what's going on. You don't even have to turn on the television. The poison box is what I call it, is a damn poison box. But they're just like the Grammys, that shit that came on the other night. I mean, it's just all a fucking distraction, honestly. I mean, and I don't want to sound like just a complete. I'm cynic. I'm a cynic, but I think cynicism can be a good thing. I think my whole mantra throughout my life, at least the last 15 years of my life, is 50% pessimism, 50% optimism. You have to ditch out whatever you need, and you take in what you need. I just think that some of this shit, this fake ass football, these rigged ass football games, all this shit is a fucking distraction. Like these men in tights or whatever, running around catching balls, grabbing balls, is what my wife calls it. And it's like all this shit going on in the world. We're sending billions of dollars to countries to bomb other countries and just all this other shit that's going on. And we're covering up for pedophiles and everything else. And we're supposed to care about these fake ass scripted football games that are tied to the gambling industry and the mafia and everything else. But I guess we have to have something to escape from, right? We can't focus too much and be too woke, because if we're too awake, we know that this shit's all a game anyway. And so we have to just keep giving the people the reality television. I think it's funny, reality television. And I'm not gonna lie, I love some reality TV. I'm not gonna sit here. I don't watch just all documentaries and just series all the time. You got to laugh to keep from crying. Like, I totally agree. You have to entertain yourself. But this stuff with just these police broadcastings of the slaying of black people is not something that's a current thing. I mean, even watching some of the interviews, like I watched Smokey Robinson's Breakfast Club interview a few years ago, and he talked about how in the 50s and the 60s, when they were on tour with Motown, they would have to, eat the meals in separate buildings. Like, even though he was Smokey Robinson, he couldn't eat in the restaurant with the white people, in a lot of places. Like, they gave him his food. He had to eat it in the car. He was bullied and beat up by police officers and and white people all the time when he was in Detroit growing up. These are just casual stories. The way these people's experiences have been, that tells you that there's way more to the picture. I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
most people back then dealt with police brutality. They make it seem like it's just some new thing and it's so outrageous, and it's almost part of the media machine to highlight Tyre, to highlight George. But I'm saying to myself, you realize what else is going on. This is just what they're showing you. And why is the timing? It's almost like 2 years exactly from George Floyd.
Ooh.
So why are
You,
they showing it 2 years exactly from George Floyd now?
not only do we not see all the killings, I think we have to highlight that the most of the killings that we've seen, even to this day, are in large cities. They're in cities where there's bystanders coming by. Like, this topic gets me real amped up because, like you said, we don't see everything we don't see everything that actually happens, right? First of all, the instinct for one, the ability and the speed of being able to pull out a phone is very new. This is less than 5 years to a decade. So the instinct, ability, and the speed to pull out a phone, I want to emphasize the instinct to pull out a phone and record a police officer beating someone up in public. That's only going to happen in cities where there's pedestrians walking by actively, where there's enough people in that city, in that concentrated area that can actually do that. They have to have the ability and the speed and the instinct to actually pull out the phone and do it. All of this stuff is very, very new. Like, it has to be accounted for. So yeah, the situation in Memphis, in Minnesota, stuff happens in New York, Eric Gardner, LA, Rodney King, way back in the day. Not only does the recording have to happen, okay, now it has to get passed up. If this is a public camera, someone in that setting, in that CCTV, closed circuit television setting, has to say, okay, this isn't right. I'm going to share this with someone else. So many things have to happen in between that it's obvious that all the police brutal beatings, even that are on video, don't even reach the public. So every now and then something comes up that actually passes all of those steps and gets blown up in the light. And we're supposed to think that, oh, this happens every now and then. What's unfortunate about police brutality is this shit happens every week, statistically. This shit happens on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Someone's killed by police and we probably never hear about it. And what also has to be said is not always Black people. It's not always Black people. Let's not get it misconstrued. Like, these are people who they got the badge, they got the power, all this other stuff, but they're human, they're human. There's people that suffer to this stuff a lot more often than we see. And to close out the point, if it's not a Black person being killed by the police, we probably damn near never hear about it. We'll never hear about it because the public there won't be as big of an outcry as it's not, the imagery isn't there. These are media sources. They want clicks, views, and popularity. Fox wants more views than ABC. So the imagery isn't there for them to even push the story as much. Not many journalists are going to pick it up. Social media is not going to blow it up. It's not going to lead to clicks. So the backlash we're going to get for showing it isn't going to lead to enough in the future. So we're just not going to put it out there. Like, there's so many different factors in this thing.
100%. I think there's something important for my audience to understand, and Jay's audience. We need to start, if you want to participate in this public sham of what we call a democracy, whatever we have right now, if we're going to vote shame people every 2 to 4 year cycles, to me, if you're going to vote for something, protest vote. It's not even a protest vote for me at this point. It's a vote based on principle. If you talk the talk and walk the walk, if this situation upsets you that much with all these slings you've seen on camera, so you can't pretend that you haven't seen it. Now that you have all this information in front of you, fucking protest vote. So don't vote for the one party is what I call it, until qualified immunity is completely ended for police unions. Don't vote for these same people who are getting money from the police lobbies. Why the fuck would you support Democrats and Republicans when they're funding the police state more and they're protecting the police from the brutality? So to me, it's lip service when you say that's so sad or whatever. What the fuck are you doing about it? Nothing. Because until you end qualified immunity and similar laws, this stuff is going to keep on happening. Like you said, it's not even a black person thing, it's a human being thing. We shouldn't want the police to do this to anybody. But they're so powerful because the politicians have allowed them to become so powerful on top of it, because they don't want to take the power of the pen and they don't want to do anything about ending the immunity for these cops. So they have free reign to do whatever they want to do. And that's just one aspect of it, qualified immunity. But my thing is this: if you really want to change something with these reformist policies, start from that. We need to get to the point where you don't want to see innocent people dying in millions overseas, which I learned a long time ago. I'm not going to support a political party or an entity that funds the killing of millions of people around the world consistently. So why the fuck am I going to support them at a ballot? I'm not. I'm tired of doing it. And if people are really serious about their principles and stuff, you can't support corruption and then say, why the fuck is nothing changing, when you're supporting the same corruption that's funded by the people who are committing the corruption. I mean, it's just corruption in a suit and a tie. And people need to see those links. Go to followthemoney.com, go to opensecrets.org. It shows you where all the money is going and who's getting the money and benefiting from the money. So no, these things are going to continue to happen because we're supporting it, whether we want to or not, complicitly or implicitly. We're supporting the actions that are committed against our population, our human population, not even black people. I knew you have something to say about that, Jay, probably.
Nah, I just agree. I don't want to say it's a generational thing, but there's a huge number of people who have been here longer than myself that may just continue to vote and vote and vote and vote and vote with no real strategy. I'll say that much. They kind of just vote because they're supposed to. And I think that because of just age being the common, qualifier for political leadership in any country, I believe that most leaders, I don't have any proof of this, but most leaders are likely to be conservative. That's just how it is. They're relying on the paradigms and, understandings of yesteryear to get more votes from people who've been here longer. And that's naturally going to put them in leadership. So a progressive leader is few and far between. And I actually shared this on a conversation I did the other day, but progressive leadership is often attacked, ridiculed, or looked at as, an outsider or outlier because it's progressive. It goes against what, is current. And I don't think that anyone who's progressive in the United States eyes should be viewed as anything other than good. Because what principles does the United States have to stand on who can tell other people that they shouldn't do whatever? That's like Farrakhan and Mike Wallace back in the day. It's like, who are you to condemn? Who was it? Nigeria at the time. Who are you to condemn Nigeria to say they're this, that, and the third when you're speaking from an American perspective? So I do think there's truth that, we can't continue to say these things are wrong, but I'm going to go support the people that they didn't put the laws in place, but they're agreeing with them because they're not changing them. So it's like, we got to make a choice to stand. But the struggle with that as a young person, as a person I've been a legal voter for 10 years now, I'll be 28 this year, but I'm still really understanding what that responsibility means, because I don't think anyone really knows what it means, to be honest. But like, how do you combat not aligning with Democratic or Republican, because you recognize that this is actually a one-party state? I don't know if there's a right way to combat that from a voting perspective, other than just sharing my disagreement with the entire structure.
Well, we don't have the infrastructural tools, all of them in place to instate a system that gives way more variance to politics. And that's why we have the quagmire that we're in right now, because we see the revolving door of the two teams working together. Like, it's done like that on purpose. And there's some systems. I'm actually going to interview a gentleman tomorrow from Australia. His name is Vinay Orikonde. And in Australia, they have a ranked choice voting system. They've used this system for over 100 years, where if you're voting for a person, we have here what we call, there's a precise term for it. I think it's called majority choice voting. There's another word that I'm not using that's correct, but we basically, when you vote here, you select that person and that's all you can choose. But in a real political system, let's say if you had 20 presidential candidates running, for instance, it can be obviously more offices that this pertains to, but we're just talking about the president of the United States. Let's say you had 20 options. Under a ranked choice voting system, you could choose your top 6 options if you wanted to. You could actually choose the top 20 options if you wanted to. You could choose those options, and there wouldn't be any fear of backlash for voting for the lesser of two evils, or evils, multiple evils, or whatever. There wouldn't be any vote shaming involved, because if your candidate didn't make it, your vote would still have some power, because let's just say you hate Biden. You could vote him number 20 out of the one. Your number 1 is your one choice. Your 20 is your worst choice. And so he automatically gets dropped off. And so if he's dropped off in the first round, let's just say the first 10 people are dropped off in the first round, and the second round, candidates 1 through 10 survive. No one can say that, fuck you, because you supported or you didn't support Joe Biden, because that motherfucker never made it to the second round. So they don't have an argument to make anymore. That's the way it's done in Australia. I know, and it gives people the power, because we don't have to worry about consequences in case a motherfucker that we don't like is eliminated, because they're eliminated because they're not popular enough to begin with. Like, if you use that same rationale, Biden wouldn't even have made it to the second round in his own party the last election cycle. If they would have done that, he would have dropped off, Kamala would have dropped off, and we would have been reduced to maybe Warren, Bernie, and some other motherfuckers. I mean, they're all shit show now. I'm actually saying none of those fuckers now. And I don't care about audience don't like that. They know that I went rogue when it comes to the Democratic Party. I mean, fuck the Democrats and the Republicans. Fuck them all. But because they're all going to fuck us anyway, so I say fuck them back. But it's just one of those things where it's another viewpoint. And like you said, people don't want to see progressive politics. To me, the true progressive politics for a Black person, I can't speak for all Black people, but based on that history that we've had in the political system and this society in general, Black politics should only be revolutionary in nature. We should not accept anything but revolutionary politics in the tradition of the Black Panther Party, what we used to have. But see, we don't have any Black revolutionary presence at all now, because the system has killed those people off.
Let me get your take on this. I heard recently that, and I don't even know if it was from a credible media source, though. I can't think of the YouTube channel, but dude does like news or whatever, liberal cat. He made a video basically attacking Trump because Trump came out and said that he wanted to overthrow the entire Constitution. Now, it was a liberal perspective. So, of course. Oh, he's coming, he wants to overthrow the Constitution. This is reckless behavior. But it was like, shit, I align with that. Let's overthrow the whole damn thing. We could change voting rights. We could change the 13th Amendment. We could look at gun laws, like whatever the hell. Overthrow the whole thing. That sounds like great news to me, because since 1776, people that look like me ain't never had no ground to stand on when it comes to law, politics, and true freedom. And so overthrow the whole thing. Hell, I'm with it.
Careful, Jay, because hey, you know how they would come at us and say that we're trying to incite something. But man. I'll say this or whatever. What did Chuck D say? A rebel without a pause?
Man, shit.
But I tell you, man, people know I had to do it in a clandestine way on this forum, but I've had people on. I had Jacob on one of the last episodes I've done. Jake Herrico, I had them on as well. I've had some people on here. There are a lot of people hidden behind the scenes that you would not suspect that are down for a serious cause. And I'm not going to say what cause that is because that hasn't happened yet. I'm not going to be, I'm not one to put it this way. Maybe what we've said is enough to put us under the bars or whatever. I don't know behind bars,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, I'm
Threading
down for
needles.
sure. I'm down for sure. And we need a change because right now what we have is we have two parties that basically they want to satisfy people every 10 to 20 to 30 years to give people the impression that things are changing, but they don't want to have an abrupt change. They want to keep this shit going while
Yeah.
poor people die, the working class dies off, so that a few people have all the control. That's what they want. They want us to die off.
It even triggered, I didn't say triggered you, but you see how uncomfortable that kind of conversation is when we start to overthrow the whole Constitution. But what principles does it stand on? You know, from the words, it kind of makes sense. And so, freedom and liberty for all and all this other stuff. But like, has it been acted out that way? So what value does it actually hold? If you have a rule book, if we're playing Uno, right, and it's house rules, and somebody tries to go back and reference the original Uno rules, they hold no value here. So yes, the or Monopoly, the rules exist. That's cool. We acknowledge that, but they don't hold any value. So why not just make our own rules? That's the way I see it. The people who made those rules aren't here anymore. They're not here. We're playing a whole new game of Monopoly, a whole new type of Uno. Let's reorganize these rules and just play house rules. We got the house. Like if we rely on them rules, we seceded from Britain. We still speak English, but even the things we learn from them anyway. So we're still playing their game in the first place. We never even really got away from Britain. We're speaking English. We learned our principles and our way of society from them. We're a whole new people in America. We need a new constitution. It's logical. It's logical. It's illogical to still rely on something that was made 300 years ago and doesn't even hold any value in the public sphere. Like, that's illogical. That's what I would say.
Jay, I like that. I tell you that we have consistency too. At least on the air, we went back. I remember the interview we did, the very first interview I've done, because I didn't think I would get into podcasting. Like, not even starting a forum myself, but being a guest, I never saw that coming. You know, I didn't feel comfortable going into a podcast, but thankfully to you and to Bruce Jackson, Bruce told me about you. You guys are related. You guys are cousins. And he said, why don't you come on this forum called The Black Voice? At the time, it was called The Black Voice. Man. And let's talk about the George Floyd situation and everything else. Like, how do you feel about that? And I was down for the cause. I was like, sure, I'll do it. But one of the last things I said in the interview, I know you remember, was that the best thing for Black people at the time will be for Trump to get into office again. That would be the best thing. And people, like I said it in a way that wasn't threatening to these snowflake-ass liberals, because, I mean, I don't want to call people by name because these are good people. But some of my friends are snowflakes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Right now, they're still snowflakes, but some of them are becoming a little bit less snowflakey, which is good. We don't need the snowflake mentality. And just to be clear, there are plenty of conservatives that are snowflakes. These are the people who they say that they want to change shit up. Like you said, the J6 situation that I'm not going to get into. I think J6 was a fucking sham. I think it was. I believe it was an inside job, honestly. I was telling my son when we were watching it, these people climbing the fucking Capitol and stuff. I was telling them,
it's media.
Does this shit look like a movie or what?
Hollywood. Thank you.
Hollywood shit, dude.
Come on, guys.
Like, I was texting people, and the people that I fuck with, we don't give a fuck. Like, why the fuck should we care? And like you said, what if it did? Like, what if they do want to overthrow the Constitution? How can they be a
So,
bad thing for us? How can it be a bad thing for us? You know what I'm saying?
man,
But see, when you have a different set of eyes and different sets of experiences, you have those people who are saying, "Oh my gosh, it undermined the democracy." What fucking democracy? We ain't got no democracy anyway.
imagine white people overthrowing the government and black people being upset. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, they're overthrowing the government.
But see,
Come
that
on,
goes to
man.
show you the different perspectives. I wasn't even thinking that when that happened. I was like, "Oh my God, my poor United States, this country is going to hell in a handbasket." I was never, that never went through my mind at all.
It was
And I
funny
was
to
saying,
me.
and it,
I'm
I thought it was funny myself.
100%.
And the people in there, like, I'm supposed to be convinced that these politicians, their lives were under threat. But that's what they want to tell you. And then what did they do? They funded the police more. They gave the Capitol Police more money after that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were apparently Pelosi was going to be assassinating all these motherfuckers. I'm saying to myself, I'm not saying anything. I don't want anyone to die, but I'm just sitting back, ain't saying shit. I got my popcorn. I got my popcorn. That's all I'm saying. Don't don't make me feel like I'm supposed to care. I'm just saying, as many people as they fuck over on a daily basis, I'm supposed to care about some people in suits and ties that don't give a fuck about me. The same people who knelt on the ground like they were in solidarity with George Floyd, but the key architect of the crime bill that condemns black people for having drugs on them in the first place is in the office, and we're supposed to support that stuff. Like it's just, and they're all about the police. Like they love. Don't be surprised. Like the Democrats and Republicans love the police. They do.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that there should be a complete abolition of police, but I'm just saying in nice neighborhoods, quote unquote, that have nice resources, lots of money. I don't see people saying there are too many cops there. The problem is that there are cops in neighborhoods where they don't need to be there. So if crime is high in those areas caused by the police and the drug war to begin with, why would we want more police just to over police more black people? Like that's we just don't want black people in our neighborhoods that don't need to be there because they're causing more problems than they're solving. So why is that such a bad thing that we don't want those people in those neighborhoods? Just because you have a nice cozy neighborhood with a cop around the corner that you want, that's good. I wish every neighborhood had police that actually care for the people, but we don't have that in this country. We have policing in areas where people are already struggling, and there are too many of them there. And I know you know this because you interviewed a police officer who agreed that they should defund the police.
Mm.
And what's the name of that gentleman that you interviewed in
Actually, my
Chicago?
cousin. That was my cousin, Everett. Oh, and that's my other guy, Hooper, Officer Hooper. He was from Chicago. My cousin was down in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. Do you think that any police can act unbiased, like in uniform? You know what I mean? Like, can they use proper judgment without police bias? Is that far-fetched? The reason I asked that, I don't believe that like a sane a sane good person can be a police for like a long time. Not under these strains, especially with the public like perception of being a police. I think you have to almost be a little off center to want to be a police right now. Like, and to do it at a sustainable level for a long time. Unless you're going home, I'm being human. Unless you're going home drinking every night or doing worse. Like, I can't imagine that you can be a sober, good, jolly-go-lucky man and be a police officer in this environment. I think it'd be very hard to do.
The thing about the way I look at police is that police at the very bottom rung of the police state, which is the United States. But most countries have a police state presence. When I lived in Costa Rica for a summer, they have security there, but they're not really full-fledged police people in a lot of areas. They're really more community people. Like I was eating lunch with the quote-unquote police in Costa Rica because that's the way they do it. They're actually a part of the community. It's not like this task force
separation, man.
or a SWAT team, this type of shit that we have here. To me, the police are the lowest rung of the police state, which basically means that they carry out and execute people that the military don't execute. They execute people that the intelligence agencies don't execute. So the intelligence agencies actually have more control than the police do that we see every day. But those are the people who are an extension of the military and the intelligence agencies, which make up this big, big police system, not even including the prison system, which is also a part of this police state. So I don't like police in the sense that that's like saying a soldier that's in another country that's defending America can use proper judgment in a situation. How do I know that that person is not killing innocent kids and bystanders? So we have to put all of our trust in an agent of government to do the right thing. Of course, so based on that premise alone, I don't have any faith even in good cops because they're part of the system that allows for the abuses to happen in the first place. So I have to view them as just one set of the chessboard, unfortunately. Even if they're good people and they need a job, I get that, but I just think that the system has bred this kind of mentality. Not to mention that unfortunate historical link, to the slave patrols, that are already there. That's already embedded in this, it's baked into that.
Yeah, I think that probably wrapping it up here, but I think it's very unfortunate the Tyre Nichols situation that they just happen to be black cops, man. It gives the media so much fuel. They're gonna ride this shit out like crazy. They're gonna ride it out. The cops were convicted, dang, they're within 12 hours, it seemed like. The fraternity ousting them from Omega Psi Phi almost instantly. It makes it even more uncomfortable. I actually saw an older black cop yesterday, a gentleman. I pulled up to the grocery store and he just happened to pull up behind my car. And I had an expired license plate, if I'm being honest. Got some emission stuff going on. So I thought he was pulling me over, but I got out the car. He wasn't sudden me at all. But he kind of gave me a look, a head nod. And I gave him a look. And typically with anyone, I would typically give a look and a smile. That's just what I do. But for some reason, I was in the back of my head, and I was like, in my head, in the moment, I was like, I can't even trust a black cop no more. And like, if I'm thinking that, I know I'm not the only one thinking that. And it was unfortunate that I had to even look at him that way. Now I'm going to the store like, did I give him the proper grace? Like, did I actually handle him as a human being, or did I let something else affect how I saw him? And in that moment, I truly felt like I let something else that I saw affect my interaction with him. And it's like the fact that they're plastering that everywhere, it's just unfortunate, man. I hope that there's change ahead. I hope in my lifetime I can see something drastically change as far as our makeup as a country, whether it's a new constitutional convention, doing away with some of these police laws that protect them when they're murdering people, human to human murdering people. It don't give a damn if you have a badge on or some public given authority. No one has a right to take a life, especially when his life isn't threatened. Like, no one. I don't agree with it, man.
Well, going to what you said, and I have to be careful what I say here because I know a lot of people know me and they know people that we're associated with, but I'll just put it this way. I'll use a hypothetical. I just know that based on some people's experiences with the police, black police especially, it doesn't matter. I mean, really at the end of the day, like who's under that uniform. But those people have seen situations where there are vendettas against certain families in the neighborhood. And so there have been cover-ups of murders. Like
Gang
witnessing
mentality.
the gunshots, hearing the gunshots, moving the bodies out of the house and getting rid of evidence and stuff because of a certain family that this happened to, black people doing this stuff. So I have no trust at all in the system. I've seen it firsthand. So I kind of included the hypothetical into real life, but this stuff happens a lot. It's too common. But that's what happens when you have consolidated power like that. We're basically at their mercy at all times. You know, sure, the symbolism only goes so far. And that's what we talked about in one of our episodes. This black symbolism, black faces in the high places. Being a black person in office doesn't mean anything if you're not benefiting black people. And it's the same thing with police officers. I mean, you
What's her
still
name? What's her name again? I haven't heard about it for a couple years.
Kamala Harris. Oh gosh, God,
I was just like,
Kamala is what the conservatives call it, Kamala. But
man,
it's but people are just, and I follow just looking on there. I get the symbolism, but I feel like we will, as a people, and people in general, but I'm talking to black people especially, I think we will grow more as a people politically and societally if we stop trying to look for all these different models of I know representation is important, but at some point there has to be a cutoff. Like, okay, what is this representative doing for us? You know, for me, do I even need to be represented in the first place? Because I can tell you this representation stuff has gone way too far. And to me, it's just a cloak of the system itself. I mean, and that's what the police do, you know, like you were asking me about the police, what I feel about them. At the end of the day, they're just politicians, they're just police officers because they have to submit to the system that they're working for. So it shouldn't make anyone surprised that they do these things that they do. The fact that we still have the drug war going on under a black president, you would think that if black people were disproportionately affected under the drug laws, that a black president would have done something about it. All they do is just they put band-aids on it to give people the impression, oh, let me just drop those mandatory minimums that my running mate put into place and give the impression that we're changing the system. But let's keep it everything illegal, keep it illegal, but do a few things to make people think that the system is changing. So we can just put it onto the other administration to make a real change. I mean, but the people aren't demanding those changes. Until you vote and protest vote for those changes, they're not going to change. Qualified immunity, the drug war, all this stuff goes together. That we can't separate them. The war on the military budgets, all this is tied into the police budgets. All this stuff goes into militarism. So if you support Democrats and Republicans, you support all those things that I talked about, whether you want to or not. Just look at the laws that are on the books already. If you want to make a change, don't support that. That could be your first initial momentum into maybe putting pressure on the system. As long as you support them, they don't have any reason to change anything. That's the way I look at it. And to me, that alone is worth a vote for something else besides what you're doing.
Yeah. I think that my understanding of laws, and I know we're talking about like laws and legal stuff through this last like 10 minutes of wrapping up. Isn't it, are laws made to exclude? Like I'm just trying to understand because I feel like we need all these inclusion laws, then laws naturally are made to exclude people. Is that a wrong perspective? I'm a learning kid. It just, from what I see, it just seems like laws are put in place literally to exclude people unless the words inclusion are within them by some way.
The problem with laws is that someone has to enforce them, but then depending on the powers that be, they don't become enforced. Just like you know, with the COVID-19 narrative and these the anti-Asian apparently, and I don't want to degrade people, but I'm sorry. Like I saw that stuff going on, like being circulated in the media about the hate towards Asian people, the hate towards certain people. But I don't see any anti-black bills at all. I don't see anything for black people even being proposed. But and so to me, you don't. How do you expect people to have sympathy when we get all these news stories, but there's no sort of protections in there? We should be a protected group of people. And some people will argue that the Civil Rights Act in '64 deem Black people as a protected class of citizens. I don't think it did enough. It's like you said, sometimes you have to adapt with the terms. A lot of people, I think, are still living in 1964. The approach for most lawmakers is that what was done back then was enough for Black people. And it's like we haven't done anything else to come up with the times to reassess the apply to Black people now. Like we're in another century now. We need to start worrying about what happened back then. Sure, maybe for that time period that needed to be done, but maybe something else needs to be done for this time period. And that's what people don't
60.
talk about enough.
How much has really changed in 60 years?
Correct. Look at the wealth inequality. Nothing's changed. You could argue that it's been worse than it was back then. Considering the technology and everything we have now compared to then, you can make the argument that we're in a worse position now than we were back then.
There's just more distractions.
We just have more. We have more to account for now, but it's an ongoing situation, and they're constantly moving targets. But I think it's important for people to just sort of take a breather from the poison box, and maybe reassess your family, reassess your views, and see if these changes are actually happening that you want to see put in place. Just follow what they're telling you. I don't see any changes happening that much. I see a lot of good words being spoken, but I mean, I have to see things for myself. I'm a very empirical person, and I like to see things happen, like when they're supposed to happen. And I just think that we have too many things going on, and I can't really blame people with rising cost of living and inflation and everything else. It's hard to put all the blame on just everyday people because we do have a lot to account for, and we can't keep up with everything that's been done behind the scenes in Congress right now.
Yeah, word to that. To that.
But do you have any closing words about, I guess, this information age that we're in right now, and being able to say what you want to say, and the threat of losing friends over it? Because I've followed some of your stuff on TikTok, and I've seen all the pushback you've gotten from just posting certain videos, and I've gotten some pushback from people, and it's sad to see that the people are questioning, like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, what happened to you? Like, I've gotten that more times than ever this last 5 years. Kiko, what happened to you, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I embrace it, man. Because again, I'm not gonna align with what's wrong. And clearly the country I grew up in was birthed on wrong principles. I don't think anyone can, if someone wants to come tell me differently, then I would love to hear it. But it seems that the country that I was born in was birthed on wrong principles. So I don't stand firmly against it simply for the fun of it. I heard you say rebel without a, I got told that rebel without cause when I was still in corporate. I was still in corporate, and the guy told me that. He was one of my managers. He was like, "Oh, you're a rebel without a cause." I'm just like, well, I just don't like doing things that don't make sense to my morals and standards. Like I don't. And this was a situation where we were open as a corporate company. It was negative 70 degrees outside, and I stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor, and our heater wasn't working properly. So I stayed home with my family, and I got told I was a rebel without a cause for taking care of my family in negative 70-degree weather. So I don't know, man. I will stand on truth, and I do my own self-studies. I try not to be on the poison box, especially as of late. I'm more so trying to put out content than consume it. So yeah, I just try to put out positivity. Some of the stuff might be challenging. I'm gonna get some backlash every now and then, but I'm always coming from a good place with good intent. I posted a BBL video one time. I ended up taking it down.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I archived it because
I think I saw the video.
yeah, so I got a little backlash, and I was like, I don't even want all that smoke. Like you know what I'm saying? I let them live. I don't agree with it, but I let them live, man. Especially because it's women. It's specifically women. So I don't want to just be attacking women in any circumstance. Never that.
That's fair. And I know we've talked about that subject on previous episodes. And me and you may have different views on that, but I definitely know that you're coming from a good place. But that's the point of dialogue. We should be able to have differences of opinion about stuff and be able to talk about it instead of canceling someone over that. My whole thing is this. This is the slogan I've come with this podcast. The slogan is you can't unthink free thought. And so I know that you're a free
I like
thinker.
that.
I know that
I
you're a
like
free
that.
thinker. And people ask, how do you know what a free thinker is? You can tell what a free thinker is because you don't conform to what other people are saying. And a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is simply groupthink. You compare yourselves to other people. How much traction is it getting with certain people? I'm almost at the point now where if a lot of people agree with something, it's almost like not a good thing sometimes
Yeah.
because we haven't gathered enough information to come to sensible conclusions. And so to me, it's like a very much a copycat generation we have where everything is just about the moment and just like the Ukraine banners, like everyone's got the Ukraine stuff. Luckily, a lot of people are taking them down now because they see exactly what that's about. Whenever the NFL draft and the military leaders on television that are promoted by the same news networks that they have contracts with the same news networks, the military industry have these Ukraine banners. Like, what's going to be the next banner they have on 2 years from now when something happens? All of a sudden, Facebook has that banner. We're all in solidarity with each other. Motherfuckers just copycat. It's just like have mind your own. Don't even know why you're posting this stuff. Just put it on there.
Mm.
Russian people don't exist, though, Jay. It's only Ukrainian people that are suffering, not the Russians at all. And so we're supposed to just hate Russian people and support this one government versus the other one. At the end of the day, they all want you to support the war over there. So my whole thing is fuck the war. Let's find a way to end the war instead of supporting a side to the war. Because it's clear that people haven't read up on the history that began the war in the first place. And so that's the point of this podcast is to inform people how that history started and get people to talk about let's end that stuff. Let's not continue the same stuff. What have we been doing now hasn't been working out. So what are we going to do to benefit the people now? Let's find something that's going to benefit the people and something that's not going to just mind control us over and over again. Because that's like you said, consumerism. Let's be the ones that create the content. Let's be our own creators. Let's not consume the stuff that they want us to consume. We're smart enough to create our own communities. We don't need their communities. I think that's what we need to get at now. Do you want to get?
I say it takes a lot of convincing, it takes a lot of convincing for people that look like us. I can speak to my friend group to really awaken them to their own capabilities and possibilities because they've been told their whole life otherwise. What was your question? You about to say something?
Do you have anything to conclude with this particular episode? Do you have a message for my audience, for your audience? Any departing words or closing words?
Be free. Be free. That's it, man. That's it. Seek your own information and be free. You said, turn out the poison box. I'm gonna echo what you said. Seek out the truth. I wouldn't say your own information, but seek out the truth. Before you react to something, before you post something, for sure, seek out the truth behind whatever you're standing on and just be free, man. I'm not anti-group think, but I am anti-reaction think, if you will. So as long as you've done your research and you've come to the same conclusion as others, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're thinking simply off a reaction and how you're told to think, I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with it.
So what would be the most contact driven way to speak with Jay Clark, the most direct way for someone to get into contact with you if they had a question or a comment directed towards Jay Clark?
Well, they can hit me on Instagram. It's probably easiest at J Clark Real, REEL. Yeah, I'm pretty good at responding like DMs and stuff, as long as it's like not attached to a viral post. Because then I get a lot of DMs with viral posts. People just sharing. I mean, some of them are cool. They'll share like resources and books and different information and stuff. But some people are just like, why are your post that? This is that. This is that. That is this. You shouldn't say that. You should say this type stuff. I don't know. You know people, man.
But anyways, Jay, I hope I didn't make you late to your next engagement.
Nah,
I know every time we talk a while, but I appreciated this conversation. Tomorrow we have Vinay Orikonde. He's going to come on here and talk about ranked choice voting and give another alternative to the two-party system and to the way we do things here, the majority vote system. And I think that's going to be a very informative interview. We have Sarah Omer that's coming on after him. She's going to continue our conversation about Brazil and Black people in Brazil and two of her articles that she published and about the crump music and how that relates to the larger African diaspora. We have a lot of beautiful guests coming down the road. We have Matt Nelson coming up next week. He's going to talk about his manuscript that hasn't even been published yet. So we kind of get a sneak peek into his book that talks about the color of civics, which actually deals with the Chicagoland area. So it may be of particular interest to Jay and his audience as well. So I'm looking forward to all these interviews we have down the road. Good evening, good day, beautiful people, and we'll see you the next time.
So appreciate you having me, man.